Right. Last class you were there? No. Okay. So, last class we had asked a question. Who are we? You were also there last class? No. Okay. Those who were in the last class, we had asked a question, who are we? That is, who are human being? And asked you to think over that. Right? Did you think? What's your name? Renuka. So, did you get any idea, Renuka, who are we? That is, who are we means human being. Who are we, or who are the human beings? Milind. We are the social animals. You. No, actually, you are trying to define human being in reference to group. For the time being, I want to forget about the group. For the time being, I am asking, who are you? You are saying, I am the member of NICE IS. That's only one facet. That is only one facet as far as description, our description is concerned. Right? Nothing wrong with that. We are social animal, but for that we need to define what is social. We need to define what is social. Right. Anyway, who are we? Ready? Human being. How do you define human being? A kind of species. So, like any other species, for the say lions, dogs, cats, I am not well versed about the biological name of these species, plant species, animal species. So, there is no difference between us and them. Ability to think. Ability to think. Ability to think. How do you say ability to think is the characteristic feature of human being? How do you know? You tamed the nature to an extent, and that's why you are saying you have ability to think.
Which other animals are able to do? So we are having something extra which is lacking in them.
So what you are saying, that one thing you said, the word that you used, that the other animals are lacking. Other animals are lacking. Right? That means you cannot define human being in isolation. If I ask you to define human being, you will be able to define only when you compare it with something else in a comparative manner. Nothing can be defined, its characteristics can be defined in isolation. Rather, we have to have a comparative approach. If I want to define human being, I have to distinguish this human being with something else, inanimate objects and other living being. Right? And then you say, other living beings do not have the capacity to tame the nature. We do have capacity to tame the nature, to control the nature to an extent, definitely. You are following me now. Right? So, to an extent, we are able to control the nature, manipulate the nature, regulate the nature, and this regulation owes to some innovative ideas, Now, the question is, why didn't the primitive man thought in the same way as we are thinking today? Why they could not tame the nature millions of years ago or thousands of years ago, as we are able to do today. No, that's what I am asking. What is the reason of lack of technology? Yes. Now you need to explain evolution, which is a further complex and difficult term. Knowledge progresses in phases. Why didn't it start the phases? It would have started long back, right? But it didn't start long back. It started only at a certain moment of the history of the humankind. Accidental discovery, that's one part. Any other thing? If you read the causes of social change or progress of society, progress of knowledge, then one thing is said, crisis. And this crisis owes a lot to rising population. This crisis owes a lot to rising population. Means the number of people who are living. As far as the number of people are concerned, if it rises, it creates a scarcity, and in that scarcity we face the problem and we try to solve that problem. It means what? The idea that has come into our mind, which is in the form of whatever technology is, owes to the factors outside us, and that is the population of a society. If the population rises, a scarcity will be there, we will be facing problem, and in that situation, that crisis will inspire us, it will pressurize us to think so that we could tackle that problem. So that idea owes to not ourselves, our emotions, our thinking capacity, rather we think because we face the problem. Are you getting it? Right? So our idea, which you said human being is characterized by this idea, actually the idea owes to population. If population does not increase, till today whatever we have studied, if population does not increase, we will be lacking in new ideas. Are you getting it? Right? That means there are some loopholes even in that. And how do you end or plug all these loopholes? By saying X and Y and Z, they say so about human being. Human beings are possessing that character because X has said, Y has said, and all those X and Y's yesterday we talked about are none other than the philosophers. You know who are the philosophers? Philosophers are one who are able to convince you through their logic that what they are saying is truth. Otherwise, if they would have been talking about the pure truth, absolute truth, no philosopher would have ever been condemned, criticized and refuted. If Kant is saying something and this is the truth, and that is absolute truth, pure truth, then Hegel will never be able to refute what he says. So what happened? In his time, Kant was able to mobilize people, convince people initially at the intellectual level, and in the later period post Kant, it was Hegel who convinced people, and that's why he got the followers. You will get that reflection in sociology also. When Durkheim says that till Durkheim, sociology as a discipline was not well established, a lot of doubt existed that sociology as a distinct discipline exists. Auguste Comte, Herbert Spencer, and one person, White, had said that if sociology as a discipline exists, it will encompass in its fold all the other disciplines, political science, economics, psychology, and so on. But thank God it does not exist. So Durkheim, as a sociologist, faced with a onerous task of establishing sociology as a distinct discipline. And once he realized that he is the person who can establish its distinct identity. And Durkheim says, the reason I believed, because I found a number of followers. Durkheim got a number of followers who believed in his theory, and that's why he believed that he is the person who could establish a distinct identity of sociology as a discipline. It means in the ultimate analysis, we have to refer to some philosophical speculation to characterize human being. Right? One methodology is to compare with somebody else, something else, and that is similar to what is, you can say, it draws inspiration from a perspective by Levi-Strauss that is known as a structuralist perspective. A structuralist perspective. Structuralism is a perspective propounded by E. Levi-Strauss, who said, world is comprehended in terms of binary opposites. If you want to understand the character of day, if you want to describe the character of day, you can describe it only when you compare it with night. If you don't come across night, you will never be able to realize the features of day. You cannot explain high tide if you don't face low tide. You cannot feel happy if you do not come across sorrows. That's philosophical. Right? Means the feature of day can be explained by comparing it with night. This is called comparative sociology. Now, comparative sociology is much more than that, but yes, there is some reflection of that method. So, we can understand, we can describe the feature of human being, one, by comparing with inanimate object, by comparing with the other living beings, and secondly, we can also characterize, describe the feature of human being by making a reference to some philosophical speculation. Right? So what he said? Who are we? Who are we? That can be described vis-a-vis dead objects, inanimate objects, vis-a-vis other living beings, that is animals. We are keeping all other living, non-living being under single category, that is animals, organisms. And third, by making reference to viewpoints of philosophers. Viewpoint of philosophers. Right? Whatever may be the character of human being, whatever may be the character of human being, if one loses it, one does not realize it, we can say that that person is suppressed, that person is no more feeling human. If a person is realizing his true nature, there is no meaning of talking about emancipation. Freedom has meaning only when you are bondaged. Otherwise, what is the meaning of freedom? Right? What is the meaning of freedom? So, he said, as yesterday we talked about, Jewish emancipation is not possible without human emancipation. So, how does human being is defined by Marx? How is human being defined by Marx? What according to the nature of human being, according to Marx? Right? Now, this human nature, if it is realized by all human beings, then there is no meaning of talking about emancipation. Emancipation is relevant only when human being has lost its true character. Right? Lost its true character due to certain historical developments. Right? So, when Marx is talking about human emancipation, that implies he wants to reinstate the nature of human being. Reinstation of the true nature, spirit of human being. True spirit of human being. Right? And this he does, the characteristic feature, he does it by comparing with inanimate, animate objects, as well as making a reference to a particular philosopher called Immanuel Kant. Comparison. He compares with the dead objects, and that's very natural. They are dead, we are living. Then it compares with the other living being. So, in comparison to other living being, human being is characterized by possessing creativity. what you said, somebody said thinking. Somebody said thinking. In Marxian word, we are using the term creativity, right? So what Marx said, human being is characterized by creativity. Creativity, right? What do we mean by creativity? We have a misconception, or generally when we use, or you can say the sociological or Marxist meaning of creativity is different from the common perception about creativity. So what is the common perception, a layman perception, the common man, what he or she thinks about creativity? Generating new ideas and formations. Can you give any example? Tell me one. Bulb. Medicine. What was the name? Thomas Alva Medicine. Edison, sorry. Edison. We are remembering still Edison. And during Edison's period, there were a number of people, but they never thought about bulb. Are they creative? Were they creative? Milind? Yes or no? Now when Thomas Alva Edison, I was again saying medicine, Edison, when he got the idea of bulb, there were many people who were contemporary of Edison, and at that time also there must be some people who would be cleaning the drainage, cutting the grass. So were they creative or not? They were not creative. That's what I wanted to hear from you. So generally all people are not creative. That's what you want to say. That's the general perception. So who are creative? Creativity in general perception is defined by value excellence. Right? In general, creativity is defined by value excellence. If one excels, if you have been having the idea of bulb and throughout your life you attempted, or let me make it more in a different way, you want to be IS officer and you exhausted all the 6 attempts or more as per the normative prescription of UPSC, what will the idea that will prevail in the other's mind? बेकार समय लगाया, wasted his time, he is not fit for anything, trying to become IS officer, he is not creative, he is not intelligent. Means one who excels in the valued outcome of a society. What do we mean by valued outcome? Because we need to define wholly value excellence. What is value? Value means the desirable aspect of society. Now if you murder, Dawood Ibrahim is also very famous. He excels in his own domain. Even USA has declared him as a global terrorist. Osama is killed, but Dawood, I don't know whether even USA has his photograph or not. Right? He is excelling. He is excelling. But that excellence is not valued by society. It is not considered good by the society. So when you say creativity, in general, in common parlance, that refers to value excellence, means excelling in the field that is upheld by the society as morally correct, desirable. This is the meaning of creativity that we know. This is the meaning of creativity that we know. Right? If 10 people simultaneously invent bulb, nobody will be called creative. You have not done anything extraordinary. All are capable of doing that, so you are not creative. That's what the normal perception about creativity, which is not so according to Marx. In Marxian sense, creativity does not imply value excellence. Write down. Contrary to common perceptions, creativity does not imply value excellence, according to Marx. Creativity means a unique personality, a pure desire or interest. Desire word is a little bit, it has a negative notion, so it's better to write down interest or subjectivity. It means if a person has some wish list, interest, he can be called as creative according to Marx. The only feature that he says is subjectivity, that is, it is unique to him. It is unique to him, and we want to analyze that uniqueness too. If you want to become IS officer and I want to become also IS officer, that does not mean we are copying each other. So if two people have similar interest or same interest, that doesn't mean that one is copying the other. Means your interest has come from within. Your interest has come from within. From within. From heart, from lung, from intestine, from leg, from hand, from brain, from where? If you say, I am intelligent because of my genetic composition, that means your intelligence, your idea owes to your genetic composition, not you. Are you getting confused a little bit? No. I am strong because physically strong because my parents, my father was also a well-built. I am aggressive because my father was also aggressive or my mother was aggressive. It means your aggressiveness is not pure to you. It owes to genetic inheritance. If you say, when I watch a movie of Amitabh Bachchan of 70s and 80s, I like to fight so many criminals alone. Means, you are not doing this. Amitabh Bachchan is inspiring you, affecting you to do like that. Means your idea, whatever is the idea, the wish list, the interest. If it is pure you, means it neither owes to your genetic inheritance, nor it owes to your cultural inheritance, nor to geography, nor to environment, nor to anything tangible. Generally, when we say, this person, if he would have liked, he would have cleared the exam. How do you know, or parents know, that this or his child or her child did not made the maximum effort to become IAS officer or to say clear any exam? These are the very basic things, that's why it is taking a lot of time. Are you getting it? That means that wish to excel or to clear the exam, somewhat it is derived from vacuum. You cannot explain why is it. You simply say, this is my wish, this is my interest. The moment you give the responsibility of your idea to some explanatory factors, it no more remains with you. Rather, it becomes a product of biology, culture, environment, geography, and so on. Right? Means, one can never explain why he wished to do so. If that is the situation, then it said God, divine, pure interest. Are you getting it? This is called subjective consciousness. Right? Means a person, according to Marx, a human being, is born with certain pure reason, pure interest, which can neither be explained by his biological inheritance, nor by the culture in which he or she is born, nor to the environment, nor to the geography. It is his or her in a pure form. That is called creativity. Have you seen a movie called Zindagi Na Milegi Dobara? Right? Katrina Kaif and Hrithik Roshan. Right? So, one fine night they are lying both on grass and Katrina Kaif is watching on the star. Right? This person, Hrithik Roshan, is always worried about share market money. And Katrina Kaif is saying, she is watching very interestingly, involved in an involved way those stars. That's pure, and she is feeling happy. She is feeling happy. Why she is feeling happy? Because that is her wish list. That she wants from her life. So simply watching the stars is creativity in Marxist sense. And to understand that, I quote a Marxian statement. During communist mode of production, proletariat class will be able to read Plato in the evening and fish in the morning. For us, fishing is no more creative. You simply sit on a chair on the bank side of a pond or river or something, you have that fishing hook and you are just fishing. For us, there is nothing creativity in that, but that person feels happy. That is creativity. Are you getting it now? What is the meaning of creativity? Which I have explained in words. Creativity does not imply value excellence. Rather, creativity implies subjective consciousness, the freedom of choice. Right? If in our life we are not able to select or have choice freely due to certain external factors, we will not be realizing our true nature, will not feel satisfied, will not feel happy, will not feel contented. This is what Marx has taken from Immanuel Kant's philosophy. Kant says, man is born with pure freedom of choice. He should do what he wants to do. Teaching only sociology is not a valued outcome. Even cutting grass, if I like to cut grass, I should do that. If I am forced to do what I don't wish to do, I will never feel satisfied or happy. Means I will lose my nature, that is creativity. Are you getting it? Right. So, write down about Kant. Every person is born free. According to Kant, every person is born free with a unique interest. Should have freedom to realize that interest or goal, that interest or goal. Pursuing an interest, freedom to realize that interest or goal. Pursuing an interest should be a free choice, not influenced by any tangible and cultural factors. Any tangible and cultural factors. Right? Kant had said, what he said, that man should be live in an environment. That environment is conducive. When he is saying environment, that refers both to the environment, natural environment, biological environment and social environment. He says man should be in that environment where he has a freedom of choice. He should do, or he should be able to do what he wants to do. And then he says, man should be governed by the law that he gives to himself. According to Kant, man should be governed by the law that he gives to himself. If I say, you make your rules, what will happen in this world? Chaos. Kant does not say that if people have freedom to do what they want to do, that will not create chaos. It will be a perfectly ordered society. Why? Because if you are giving a law to yourself, means you are recognizing your own right as a human being. You are understanding the true nature of human being, so you will never make a rule that will infringe other human beings' right. Imagine a hypothetical situation where I am living in a situation in which I can give a law to myself. Naturally, the law that I will give to myself will have consideration for the human nature. I would not like any other people to infringe that right. So naturally, I will not make a law for myself voluntarily that will infringe your rights. So everybody, if they are concerned about others' rights too, will there be conflict in society? There will be no conflict in the society. If there is no conflict in the society, society will be well behaved, ordered, normal. Are we getting it? Now, if this character is lost, we start making rules for ourselves that starts infringing others' rights. Others will also start making rules that will infringe my right. I will be gradually getting distantiated from my true nature. Right? So, in the beginning, that is called natural state or tribalism. Natural state or tribalism. People had freedom of choice. Everybody was doing what he wants to do. There was no coercion on a person to select a vocation or a profession or a work. Right? But certain development took place in the history of European society, because Marxist analysis is based on European society. that created a situation in which people, instead of respecting each other, started infringing each other's right, exploiting each other. Right? And Marx says that one single villain is the concept of private property. Why do you want to become civil servant? Yes, I want answers from each of you. झूठी बोल दो, कोई बात नहीं. What's your name? Rajkumari Yadav. I think you had given a mail to me. No. Nice IS? You had mailed? Anyway. Maybe somebody else. Raj was there. Rajkumari Yadav. Yes, you have mailed me. You forgot that 3-4 days back. Huh? I'm not getting you. Okay. Might be. Somebody did that. Right? Your name was there. Right? So why do you want to become a civil servant? You can lie, no problem. You want to serve nation. Right. Good. So Rajkumari want to serve nation, and that's why she wants to be an IS officer. You know what you are saying? All other people who are doing menial jobs, the sanitary workers, the gardener, and the cooks in the president house and in our houses, my non-working wife, they are at all not serving the nation. Are they serving? So everybody is serving nation. That person who is sitting there getting a meager salary from me, he is also serving nation. So why do you want to become IS officer, take so much pain? If you want to serve the nation, that means you are lying. Right? Maybe because I want to have power. I want to serve the nation with power. And by the same token, a lot of money too. So perhaps you are not serving nation alone, rather you are trying to serve the nation, or you are disguising as serving the nation, but actually you are preparing for money and power. It means you are not preparing for your own wish list. Rather, you are preparing because you are seeking power. You are preparing because you are seeking money. Your wish list has an explanation. That is power and money. It means you are not fulfilling your own wish, subjective consciousness. Rather, you are product of certain factors outside you or your consciousness. I am not saying it is exactly true, but that's the way we explain the things. Are you getting it? Right. So power and money. And this money is nothing but, if you look at from Marxian perspective, that is called property. Private property. Private property. This private concern for private property is pressurizing on us, coercing us to select a vocation or profession. We are not respecting the freedom of our own choice, rather we have become greedy. Property is the factor, money is the factor that affects us in the selection of our vocation. You might have been watching some cartoon. Do you see cartoon? Sometimes. In one of the cartoon, a child fishes, right? And once the fish come outside, he takes out the fish and then again puts in the water, because he doesn't want the fish to die. But he feels happy. That's creativity. When you fish for money to sell in the market, you are not fulfilling your own wish. You are fulfilling the wish of property, wish of money. Right? So what has happened? Due to certain historical developments, man started losing its true character, its true feature. Right? So you do not recognize yourself. This stage of non-recognition of one's own personality is known as alienation. Right? So, give the heading alienation. Are you understanding alienation? Now a little bit. Complete you cannot understand right now. Hegel could not understand, Fichte could not understand, Marx could not explain properly who the hell we are. Right? So what we are saying here, that according to Marx, man or human being possesses certain characteristic feature. And if he loses that characteristic feature, he is estranged from himself. He feels disenchanted from himself or herself. Herself I am adding because today is the era of feminism. During Marxian period, only men were considered as creative. So whole of the Marxist explanation is about men. Right? This is called alienation. Right? So, when we say the word alienation, it refers to self-estrangement. Alienation is a social psychological condition in which man is not able to recognize his true nature. Alienation is a social psychological condition in which man is not able to recognize his true nature, the creativity. And I hope now you will never do the mistake. What do we mean by creativity? By understanding, creativity does not imply value excellence. Creativity means simply subjective choice. and this choice cannot be explained by any factor, and that's why this is also attributed to divine or God. जब हमारी समझ में कुछ नहीं आता है तो हम क्या कहते हैं? भगवान। जब समझ में आता है तो कोई भगवान का नाम लेता है? Right? So when we are not able to explain any phenomena, anything, we say God has done this. God means divine, supernatural, which is beyond the comprehension of human being. When you read Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism, then you will say, you will find there, Weber says, Calvinist had certain tenets. We'll be repeating at that time, so don't worry. And one of the tenets of Calvinist was, there exists a transcendental God which is beyond human comprehension. There exists a transcendental God which is not comprehensive to the finite mind of men. हमारा दिमाग बहुत छोटा है. It cannot understand the God. And when we cannot understand or explain, we refer it to divine or God. Right? So this is the scientific meaning of divine. Right? And when we are forced to do which we don't want to do, we are compelled to do which we don't want to do. If your parents want you to be IS officer and you want to be simply an engineer, how many of you will become an IS officer? डंडे की जोर से कोई पढ़ाई थोड़ी होती है. The motivation should come from within. If you are preparing because your parents want, I want to make my parents happy. Sometimes this also we get. It means it's not your choice. Right? Now, alienation, are you understanding this? In a very simplified word, all of you know Hindi. कहते हैं ना मन नहीं लगता है, वही alienation है. Sometimes you feel very awkward situation where you don't know why you are here. Monotonous. आज पता नहीं, दिल ही नहीं लग रहा है, मन ही नहीं लग रहा है. You have been separated from yourself. That's one of the explanation of understanding of alienation. Right? Now, how does this alienation word has come into existence? Write down. The English term alienation is derived from the original Latin noun, Latin, Latin noun alienato, A-L-I-E-N-A-T-O, alienato, put that in inverted comma, which is A-L-I-E-N-A-T-O, alienato, which in turn is derived from the Latin verb alienare, A-L-I-E-N-A-R-E, alienare, which means to take away, or remove. the Latin usage of the term, resulted in two meanings. The Latin usage of the term resulted in two meanings. Number one, transfer of ownership of property. Number one, transfer of ownership of property. And second, a state of separation or dissociation, between two elements, right? Transfership of ownership of property. That was the one meaning in which that word alienare verb was used. Second is a state of separation or dissociation between two elements, right? Parachain, write down. The first meaning was largely used by. Social contract theorists such as Grotius, 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 Hobbes, 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 Locke, 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 and Rousseau, Rousseau. Social contract theory. Actually, this social contract theory is a theory of a state. It says a state comes into existence. Now, when we are talking about that Immanuel Kant or natural state, what we said, everybody is doing what he wants to do, and nobody is infringing that right of others. Do we need a state at that point of time? What is the purpose of a state? If people don't fight each other, if people are not in conflict with each other, people are at peace with each other, in complete amity with each other, what would the president and prime minister do? Nothing. This whole paraphernalia of the government and state is because if they are not there, people will kill each other, infringe each other's right. Natural state is that state where there is complete freedom of choice, and that's why a state does not exist. There is a particular technical term for such a stage of society, and that is known as acephalous. Acephalous, acephalous society, headless society. Acephalous, headless society. You don't need any regulation. You are living in perfect amity, respecting each other, not infringing each other's rights. Right? When population increased, resource crunch will occur, and that crisis of resources will breed conflict in society. State is an institution for the peaceful negotiation of conflict. When our population increased, resources will dry up, Naturally, in that situation, if resources are less, consumer is more, conflict is natural. People will be infringing each other's right. In a free situation, people will kill each other. So a state came into existence. Let us not kill each other. Let us create an institution that will peacefully negotiate that conflict and maintain order in the society. Means people of the society came in contact with each other to create a state or society. That is called social contract theory, which we are talking about. Right? So social contract theorists, they use the meaning, transfer of meaning, such as Grotius, Hobbes, Locke and Rousseau. In social contract theories, write down, in social contract theories, an alienated worker, in social contract theories, the alienated worker was one who gave up, comma, surrendered, personal rights, liberties, powers and controls to the general will of the community. Right? General will. Underline that word, general will. This general will is a term that is coined by Rousseau. Right? And when we read Durkheimian idea of collective conscience is derived from Rousseau's notion of general will. Later on, definitely we will be talking about collective conscience, but right now, just for the sake of reference, that this general will, even when we are reading social contract theory, it is relevant sociologically. Right? If we are 50 people sitting here, right? So, what is the will of the people as a whole? That is general will. You can distinguish it from the individual will. Right? The parachain write down. The second meaning was primarily popularized. The second meaning of alienation was primarily popularized by the early theological writers. Most theologians found the cause of spiritual alienation. Most theologians found the cause of spiritual alienation in worldly environment, full stop. In order to avoid spiritual alienation, in order to avoid spiritual alienation, they encouraged alienation from the physical, alienation from the physical and social world. Physical, social world means you can talk about the material, sensuous. Physical, social world. Right? Philosopher Hegel, in his book Philosophy of Rights, used the term alienation in the sense of transfer of property, whereas in the book phenomenology of mind, phenomenology, phenomenology of mind, use the term in the sense of state of separation. For him, alienation from property is desirable. For him, alienation from property is desirable, whereas spiritual alienation is undesirable. Spiritual alienation is undesirable. Right? Means he set a goal that we should attain a spiritual goal. And if we are going for materialistic goal, we will be separated from spiritualism. Right? And that will deter us, distantiate us from our true character. But he has not explained alienation from a social perspective, rather he has treated it as an individual phenomenon. Right? Write down. Hegel treated alienation as an individual phenomenon, provided a non-historical approach to explain it, and considered it to be inherent in all spiritual creation, Right? So this was Hegel's perception of alienation. It is an individual phenomena. It is inherent in all spiritual being. The reason is we are spiritual, inherently spiritual, but we have certain material needs also. The moment we go for satisfaction of material needs, we have to separate ourselves from the spiritual realm. That's a very natural phenomenon. It has nothing to do with the external environment, history, property and so on. Karl Marx criticized or refuted Hegelian explanation of alienation and provided a historical analysis or approach to it. Right on. Criticizing Hegel, Marx provided alienation a historical approach which is rooted in the concept of private property, which is rooted in the material conditions of society. First write down the material conditions of society. Thus he brought alienation from the spiritual domain to material, from the spiritual domain to material or economic realm, REALM. He argued root of all alienation. He argued root of all alienation is economic alienation. Root of all alienation is economic alienation, which is caused because of the concept of private property. According to him, alienation was non-existent. According to him, alienation was non-existent during the phase of tribalism, that is primitive communism, that is the natural state of society. The natural state of society. Right? So I hope now you understand alienation as a viewpoint of Hegel, as a viewpoint of Latin uses of the term alienaire, as a viewpoint of, to an extent, Karl Marx. To an extent. What we have said here, that Marx has said that the earliest stage of human life, human means society, right? He calls it as primitive communism, or tribalism, which is also what we have said earlier, natural state. Natural state. Tribalism is defined as the hunting and gathering way of life, and that is characterized also by what he calls as primitive communism. Primitive communism, he says, there are certain features: absence of the concept of private property, absence of the concept of private property, right? Classlessness, no class exists during that period. Non-antagonism, antagonism is conflict. Conflict is non-existent in that society. We'll be using another term later on, which I am just mentioning here: undeveloped forces of production. Undeveloped or fully undeveloped FOP. We'll see what is FOP later on, right? But what happened? This primitive communism gave way to a society that is known as ancient society. The next phase, as described by Marx, is known as ancient society. This ancient society is characterized by surplus production. Surplus production. Ancient society means slavery, masters and slaves, right? When you produce more than your requirement, you possess it. If you are producing more than your requirement, what is the difference between working class, middle class and upper class in this reference? No, working class, middle class is the characteristic feature of contemporary society, industrial society. Okay, forget about Marx and other. How do you define working class, middle class and capitalist class or rich class today? Okay, let me make it easy for you. You know Bill Gates? You don't know? Right. So Bill Gates is the richest person of the world. Consecutively for many years, he has been the richest person of the world, even though the Melinda and Bill Gates Foundation is spending so much money on charity, philanthropy, right? There is a suite in the White House. Suite, you know, होटल का suite होता है ना, वैसे ही बिहार में रहते तो सूट. I am Bihari, that's why I am saying. If I would have been in Bihar, suit. I have been here in Delhi, so suite, right? So in that suite, it's a very costly thing. Even if you go in Maurya Sheraton Hotel here, perhaps it costs somewhat around lakhs of rupees per day, right? And many suites are booked when US President had come here. The costliest suite is there in the White House. And Bill Gates can stay there for 65,000 years without doing anything. 65,000 years. He has so much money to pay the rent of, the charges of that suite. You know what is its meaning? He is at all not worried about his expenses in the future. If you are not worried about what you will eat tomorrow, day after tomorrow, or what your next generation will eat, or next to next generation will eat. Suppose you have money, in India, Saat Pusht is a very popular word. He has so much money that Saat Pusht तक किसी को काम करने की जरूरत नहीं. Naturally, that person will be able to do what he wants to do. His will prevail. That increases his bargaining power. Middle class people, they have not to think about 6 months to 1 year. Suppose you are in job today and somehow you have lost your job. Maybe that for 1 year or 2 years you are not worried about your job. There will be no scarcity of money in your family. You and your parents or kids, they will be having a little bit tight life, but existence is not questioned. Definitely their bargaining power will be less than the richest one. What about the working class? They think about next meal. This property has the capacity to increase your bargaining power. So haves have better bargaining power, have-nots have less or no bargaining power at all. If you do not have the bargaining power, naturally you have to succumb to the wishes of the related people. And that's what exploitation occurs according to Marx. Right? So in ancient society, surplus production came into existence. Means you could survive for a longer period, and this surplus is conceptualized as private property. Earlier, everything was of community as a whole. Now, it is mine and yours. This idea of private property came into existence because of this surplus production. Why did surplus production occur? We'll see later on. Right? Once this idea came into existence, you can say idea, you can say material conditions. Right? Instead of people working for their own wishes, they selected the vocation to accumulate this. Means, now the factor affecting your choice is not you, but this concept of private property, this idea of private property. So it's not serving the nation, rather possessing power, earning money, that is driving us to do one thing or the other. In metropolitan cities, money is power. So hardly any person prepares for civil services. In smaller cities, villages, power is money. So people want to have power, and once they have the power, they will definitely earn a lot of money. Nobody is trying to fulfill his free choice. That's why everybody is alienated. As the surplus production will increase, concept of private property gets strengthened. So what Marx says, with the progress of history, the concept of private property has got strengthened. Write down here. With the progress of history, the concept of private property has progressively strengthened, has progressively strengthened, thereby giving rise to the feeling of degree of alienation. Degree of alienation. This feeling of alienation, has reached, to its extreme in the capitalist mode of production. In the capitalist mode of production, right? So here there was no feeling of alienation, here some feeling of alienation. Feudal society, more alienation. Capitalist society, highest level of alienation. In fact, at the end of the capitalist mode of production, the mature phase of the capitalist mode of production, we will be absolutely alienated. We will be completely losing our subjective choice. Look at what Marx has said. At this point of time, human being was possessing subjective consciousness. Right? Then he started losing subjectivity. Losing subjectivity means behaving under external constraint. Started behaving under external constraints, and in this case we have talked about private property, which gets strengthened, right? It reaches to, and this is called objective consciousness. This is called objective consciousness. When you reach to capitalist mode of production, man completely loses its subjective nature and works only for wealth, property. I am not teaching for your success. I am not teaching because I love teaching sociology. I don't like to give you any concession. पीछा करके पूरा पैसा नहीं लेता हूं. Right? It means this profession that I pursue because of money. I want to have more and more money. And the popular saying is, money never gives inner happiness. In fact, as I am earning more money, I am actually moving towards greater dissatisfaction. I am losing my own subjective consciousness and behaving purely in an objective manner. Man who is by nature subjective turned objective. How can we restore human being to its humanity? By restoring its subjectivity. Marxian theory comes under the category of positivism, right? Marx was a positivist, that's what we said. But Marx is saying we are a subjective being. That's the limitation of that Marx as a positivist. Marx considers human being possesses subjective consciousness, which due to the prevailing concept of private property, people start losing, and then finally they lose it completely during the extreme of capitalist mode of production. What is that extreme of capitalist mode of production? We will see. We have reached to nadir. अब इससे ज़्यादा तो एलियनेशन होगा नहीं जब 100% हो गया. So now we are left with only one choice. Eliminate alienation completely, and that was the Marxian goal of establishing communism. We'll see that later on. Right? What he says, during capitalist mode of production, the feeling of alienation is extreme. During capitalist mode of production, the feeling of alienation is extreme. Right? He says it's not only the proletariats who are alienated. Even capitalists are alienated from their self. Right down. According to Marx, in capitalist mode of production, according to Marx, in capitalist mode of production, both capitalists as well as proletariat, capitalist as well as proletariat feel alienated. But the feeling of alienation among proletariats, is extreme. Capitalists, full stop, and then capitalists do have some sense of satisfaction, due to the available leisure period. Right? So what he says, proletariats are extremely alienated. They live in a very pathetic condition of social psychological condition. Right? Now give the heading, alienation of working class in capitalist mode of production. Alienation of working class in capitalist mode of production. Right? Workers feel alienated along all the four dimensions. Don't write all the four, along four dimensions. Number one, alienation from product, alienation from process, alienation from human being, alienation from product, alienation from human being, alienation from process, alienation from human being, and alienation from species being. Product, process, human being and species being. Species, S-P-E-C-I-E-S, right? Now, if we want to understand the alienation of capitalists as well as the proletariat, we need to understand two concepts first, and then we'll move along these four dimensions, right? First thing, we have to understand what is capitalism. What is capitalism? We all are living in a society that is characterized by capitalism. So let us do some sociological analysis of the word capitalism. What do you understand by capitalism? अरे बाप रे बाप, इतना डिफिकल्ट मुझे ही हैं? Always proceed from simple to complex, not from complex to simple. Always we should proceed. This is also called evolutionary manner, right? So if I ask you that make a very simple or simplest statement describing capitalism, what would you say? Make money, right? Investing तो बाद में आएगा ना. The first time people do not invest. First time they accumulate, then they will invest. If you do not have money, how will you invest? Right? I want to go from simple to complex. So if I have to define capitalism, I will define as simply, if I have to define, accumulation of wealth or property. What you had said, you said as money. Accumulation of wealth or property. If I have money, I am capitalist. If I have no money, I am not a capitalist. That's a very simple. Now the question comes, how have we earned that money? How have we accumulated that money? Means now we are talking about the means of accumulation. Means of accumulation. Have you seen the movie called Mangal Pandey? A lot of movie examples. Nowadays I am not getting time to watch movies. Otherwise I am a voracious watcher of movies. And during our young days, when I was in intermediate, class 11, 12, there was no video and all these things, today downloading and all those internet. I was staying in hostel in Lucknow. So I used to watch 3 movies in a day in picture halls. So in the early morning, when the exams were over, or even when I was appearing in my final mathematics 12th class exam, tomorrow is exam, and one day gap was there. So in that gap, I went to watch a movie, right? But anyway, I got the highest marks in mathematics. That is a different thing. So naturally, One who watches so many movies will have many examples from movies. Just to make you understand, have you seen Mangal Pandey? देखा है? आमिर खान थोड़ा बहुत देखा होगा. In that there is a scene that an officer from of East India Company, he has been sent to India to look for the corruption by the company officials, right? And that person, he goes to a Parsi man, right? And what he found when he is inspecting his godown, that in the name of tea and other things, actually he is trading in heroines. At that time heroin was there or something else was there? Opium, sorry, opium. Trading in opium was banned at that time. Company did not allow that, at least not freely to these Parsi traders, right? But Parsis were involved in such trade in a great many manner. And those Parsis, by trading in those contraband items, which was the exclusive domain of the government, accumulated a lot of wealth. And today we find many of the Parsis are so-called very honest industrialists. Tata. Today what they are doing, that is a different kind of capitalism. What that Parsi was doing, that is known as pariah capitalism. P-A-R-I-A-H, pariah capitalism. Means, if you are accumulating wealth by certain other means, traditional means, we can call it as traditional capitalism. Traditional capitalism, right? This traditional capitalism, there are various kinds of such capitalism. As I said, one is pariah, P-A-R-I-A-H, pariah capitalism, adventure capitalism, booty capitalism, that Muhammad Ghori invaded India and even plundered India and took its wealth with him. He also accumulated wealth. He also earned wealth. That is also capitalism, right? But when we talk about Marx, Marx is not talking about such kind of accumulation of wealth. What he is talking about, that is known as industrial capitalism. Industrial capitalism, right? When we talk about capitalist mode of production or capitalism, we refer to accumulation of wealth by setting up industry and mechanized production, large scale production. So what we say industrial capitalism, you have to characterize large scale production. This is the first quality. Second, if you look at the feudal agrarian system, peasants were involved in cultivation and they were cultivating grains for their consumption. If surplus was coming, then they were trading it or selling it. But Do we expect Ratan Tata or Cyrus Mistry to ride on Tata Nano? They are not producing to consume it. They are producing it to sell, exchange, profit. Production is for exchange, profit, not consumption. Definitely, if they are the producer of BMW, they will ride on it. BMW, Maybach, right? ये कैपिटलिज्म का कोई कंसेप्ट नहीं था. एक्यूमुलेशन ऑफ वेल्थ उस समय भी होता था, लेकिन ये नहीं था, राइट? मीन्स if I see this second point, then the purpose of production is profit. Pursuit of profit, and capitalists want to maximize this profit. Capitalists want to maximize this profit. Highest return over lowest investment, that's the goal of capitalist, right? If you look at here, when I was talking about pariah capitalism, the company, East India Company, had the right to trade in opium, not other people. There were some restrictions on who will do, who will not. That is not called free market economy. When we talk about this capitalist mode of production or industrial mode of production, it operates in free market condition. Operates in free market situation. There is no restriction on anybody. No restriction. If I am allowed to produce on certain universal criteria, you are also allowed, she is also allowed, he is also allowed. There is no unreasonable restriction, irrational restriction on production and consumption. If you look at the feudal period, the Dalits were not allowed to wear clothes properly, even if they can. Today, if you have money, go in the market, purchase it, consume it. No restrictions on, irrational restriction on consumption. So, neither irrational restriction on production nor irrational restriction on consumption. Right? So, free market economy, demand and supply, that was the guiding principle of this capitalist economy. Are you getting the difference between the two? Right? Yes. Parsis we are calling, right? Are you getting this? This is industrial capitalism. Then mechanized production, you can say, and you can go on elaborating is mechanized production, which is in turn is a product of large scale production. Large scale production is possible only if the production is mechanized. Now, this industrial capitalism has two viewpoints. One is by Marx, another is by Weber. One is by Marx, another is by Weber. Marx says it is a moral pursuit of profit. A moral pursuit of profit. Or even he terms industrial capitalism as irrational. Irrational also means justified or unjustified. Irrational. If you look at Weberian explanation, he calls it rational. He calls it rational. Means this capitalist mode of production, industrial capitalism, he says it's a rational mode of production. Rational mode of production means well calculated investment and then profit. We will be reading in Protestant Ethic and Spirit of Capitalism what he says. Capitalism is not a moral pursuit of profit, rather a product of disciplined obligation to work and sacrifice of personal pleasures. So just write down under this. According to Max Weber, industrial capitalism is not a moral pursuit of profit, but a product of disciplined in bracket rational, disciplined in bracket rational obligation to work and sacrifice of personal pleasures. Sacrifice of personal pleasures. Pleasures. Whereas Marx says that the profit is earned by the capitalist. The profit is earned by the capitalists by exploiting. The profit is earned by the capitalist by exploiting the laborers. And if you are accumulating wealth by exploiting other, that will be amoral, irrational, right? Tomorrow we'll be dealing with the next thing which I said before proceeding for alienation, and that is called division of labor in Marxist view. Social division of labor and economic division of labor, and then we'll proceed further. Thank you.